Hi, today we're going to walk through the part 3 of the OpenAPI backend with a light-proxy server. The tutorial can be accessed from this document site, docnetworkint.com/tutorial light-proxy. And yesterday we finished the OpenAPI backend, this one, and the OpenAPI proxy. Today we're going to Dockerize the proxy server and run the server from a Docker container. This is the entire tutorial, and we're going to walk through this. First, before we start the light proxy server within a Docker container, we need create a config directory somewhere in the light Docker. And first we need to walk through the configurations there. I've already checked in the configuration in the light Docker repository under light proxy. You can see light Docker, light proxy, OpenAPI config. This folder contains all the configuration files. The configuration files are very similar with the configuration file we put into the light config test folder in the part 2 of the tutorial. The only difference will be in the proxy.yaml. And this is very important. In the proxy.yaml, for the part 2, we have this host set up as HTTPS, localhost 8081, localhost 8082, and localhost 8083. Now you can see I'm using the host name, the Freedom. Freedom is my computer name. This is my desktop computer. If you don't want to use the host name, you can use the IP address. However, you cannot use the 127 IP address or localhost, because localhost or 127, if the application is running within the Docker container, it basically means it's the loop network within the Docker container. It won't access anything outside the Docker container. So that's why if you want the Dockerized light proxy server to access the 3 instances running on your desktop, you have to use the desktop host name, or you can use 192 or 10 dot some IP addresses, 192.167, something like that. But for me, it's easier for me to use Freedom, which is the host name for my desktop. So that's the only difference. Basically, this is the only place you have different configuration than the standalone light proxy running on the same server. All other configuration files almost the same. Like handler.yaml is exactly the same like the part 2. We have 2 different, this is the default chain definition, and we have 2 different paths defined here. And we have the same OpenAPI.yaml file here. For the server.yaml, and you can see we have listening to HTTPS port 8080, and HTTPS is true. HTTP is disabled, it's false. And we have service ID using the backend service as a service ID, because this particular light proxy instance represents the backend services. So that's pretty much like walk through the configurations. So let's go back to the terminal. On this terminal, we have 3 instances need to be started. And this one, this is already like we went through this in the part 1 already, but now we just restart them. So this one we start 8081 for the proxy backend server. This one is up, and we start H8082, and we start 8083. So now we have 3 servers started. This is the proxy backend server using OpenAPI specification. This is the command line. We can start the proxy in the Docker container. Docker compose -f, Docker compose OpenAPI -proxy.yaml up. So this we're gonna start the Docker container. We can use -d to put this into the background. Now we have proxy server started. So let's test it out and see if it works. We issue the command line using the proxy 8080, and you can see we got something returned back, 8082 from that instance. We send another request, this time from 8083 instance. Another request, 8081, another one, 8082. So it works. You can send post requests. You can change the configuration to enable, let's say, traceability. You can enable the registration to the global registration console cluster. Whatever you do is just like is all covered by other tutorials. But for this simple tutorial, we just show you we can package the light-proxy in a Docker container. And actually the Docker container is published to the Docker Hub already, so everybody can just use it. I'll show you the Docker compose file in the light Docker project. So if we go to the parent folder of the light Docker, you can see the Docker compose for the proxy, OpenAPI proxy. Yeah, we have too many. Yeah, here we go, OpenAPI proxy. Yeah, you can see we just use the latest networking T/light proxy. And we're using port 8080. We mapped the volume light proxy OpenAPI config, which is the folder I showed you before, to /config. And we're using local network, which is created already on my desktop. So this concludes the part 3 of the tutorial. So all 3 parts, the first part, we basically start 3 instances backend service. The second one, we start the light proxy in a standalone mode. The third one, we are starting light proxy in a Docker container. Thank you. Bye.